Medford's Most Wanted going back in time to the 1920s when one group was responsible for 3 major crimes.
The Ku Klux Klan was against anyone who was different than what they believed was a true American, and they would use violence to prove that. News 10's Krystle Henderson has more in tonight's special report.
They were meant to instill fear in people and show the power of the Klan as a secret organization that could show up at your door front and knock on the door in the middle of the night and take you off into the woods and threaten you with death.
Fear, their most powerful weapon and their greatest weakness.
Fear of immigrants, distaste for Catholics, Jews, blacks, a fear of change. They felt threatened by the changing times.
Historian Jeff LaLande has done a lot of research on the Ku Klux Klan and the power it had in the early 1920s all over the country. He says there were possibly 1,000 members in Southern Oregon, their identity secret, but their crimes well known.
Our area became notorious because of 3 mock lynchings that took place and that got national publicity. They were called the Southern Oregon Outrages.
The victims targeted for their race and crimes.
The Klan wanted to, quote, clean up the streets of Medford.
The first victim, an African-American man convicted of smuggling alcohol during Prohibition. Men in hooded robes tied a rope around his neck and sent him running with bullets flying nearby. Another victim was owed money by a Klansman. He was also accused of having relationships with young women. He was dragged into the woods and threatened with a hanging. And the third victim, a Hispanic man, was hanged but not killed for stealing chickens.
At least 2 of them were told to get out of Jackson County and never return.
None of the crimes led to murder. That's where the Klan drew the line.
The Klan wanted to instill fear, but not have the law turn and look at them and focus on them for committing such crimes as murder.
Not all of the crimes made it to court. One reason, lack of witnesses.
The crimes were not prosecuted because there was no one to come forward as a witness. There were masked men at night, and you couldn't tell who was underneath that clothing for sure.
And those cases that did make it in front of a jury were dropped. Defendants persuaded the jury the Klan's crimes were justified because they stopped wrongdoing in the community, which they say was the real victim.
And they were found innocent.
The Klan continued to march in its white robes in parades along the streets of Ashland and Grants Pass. Those that followed thought they were pure, patriotic, and powerful. But that power would begin to fade away in 1924 as violence and corruption within the Klan caused it to collapse.
As Krystle mentioned, the KKK had a powerful influence all over the country and throughout Oregon. It was estimated that half of the Portland police force were Klan members, or at least for the Klan. They saw the group as an ally.
In Jackson County, the sheriff at the time was a target for the Klan because the group felt he was too easy on bootleggers.